all of a sudden I feel more relaxed being with you guys. I didn't.
Am I gonna make that?
Yeah, sure you are.
Okay.
I say that, but it's not my guy.
I know.
know?
No, we didn't make it.
So Jay, tell me, where were you born? How did it all begin?
Yeah, well, TJ, I was born in Boston. I'll take it right, please, Christine. Oh, not quite yet. My brother says, Jay, don't direct traffic when I'm driving. Don't wave people on because I'm the one driving. I tell people to go. And Paul goes, what are you doing, dude? You're going to meet my brother tonight. You'll love him. I was born in Medford, born in Boston at the hospital, but immediately in Medford on 7th Street. I'm the oldest of four. My name is Jay, and my brother is Paul Kevin, and then there's Carrie Beth and Claire Ann. And my father, and you can go right here, Christine, we're going to head right back up. My father had what is now called, that's why I don't know how to play poker or gamble or anything in that respect. He was a gambler, and he actually, back then, my mother was working to help pay the bills along with him because he wasn't providing. But back then you gave the money to the man. That's how you did it. Women weren't allowed to pay the bills, and he would gamble it, unfortunately. And he abandoned us with no electricity on when my mother was still pregnant with my baby sister, Claire Ann. So my life revolved around my mother. She was just an incredible, amazing woman who raised the four of us, strictly from a big Irish family in Dorchester, where they grew up. And that's just the beginning of a long, winding road. My mother has since passed. She passed away from ALS several years ago. And you can go left here, Christine. I'm going to try to give you a heads up as we go. But, TJ, there'll be plenty of time to get into the early years. Or is that where you want to...
Oh, no. Just get you flowing.
Okay. Well, the growing up, being the oldest, was not always the easiest. It was an education, and you're going right at the stop sign, Christine. Thank you. My mother worked 2 or 3 jobs, especially during the holiday season. So I had to know how to get that shake and bake in the oven. And my siblings are just the best. They're just the greatest people in the world. And they were sometimes more of an adult than I was, as I was a horrible teen. I was brutal, and I was selfish, and my poor mother had to suffer with that. Straight across, Christine, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
You got me babbling, and then I lose myself.
No worries.
But anyway, one of the wildest things happened is that my father had a relationship with this other gentleman. They gambled together and so forth and did their thing. His wife left him right around the time when my father left my mother. So they had 5 kids, we had 4, and you're going right here. So it was like a Brady Bunch theme. But there was never anything intimate about it. They were just friends because they knew each other. And it was an opportunity for this guy, Carmen, to take us all up. And we'd all go to the beach. There were 14 of us packed into a station wagon every weekend. But we never felt like we missed anything. My mother always provided so well that we never felt like, there wasn't a man in the house. And I think that leans a lot to my sensitivity towards women issues and such. Being raised by a woman, I don't come with the normal snags of a man's man when it comes to women. But that relationship grew over the years, and they started dating. But we could never have the same house because we could never fit the 9 kids in one house. So growing up now in Stoneham, Massachusetts, Carmen would have a house with his 5 kids on one side of town, and we were on Main Street where we had our family. But the great thing was, if Carmen's girls ever had a problem, because he was horrible with the women, with the girls, trying to raise young girls, they had my mother as a great outlet. And we, on the other hand, if my mother was becoming way too much, we had a place to go. So there were always open doors at both locations. It was just one big family. And to be honest with you, throughout the years, high school and so forth, I never recognized the fact that they weren't my real siblings because we were so young. I was 5 when my father left. They are all older, but only by a year or 2 or 3. And so we always felt like we were all siblings. And I was just with them last night for Thanksgiving, a couple of them, and we still have that same emotion. Carmen has recently passed, my father, with dementia and illness and such. So, it's been a long, winding road. I couldn't wait to get out of the house. I was a hellion. I didn't want to be told what to do. I was always running away or sneaking out at night and doing all the horrible things that my mother just shouldn't have had to deal with. To the point where I'm a September baby. When it was time to graduate high school at 17 from Stoneham High in 1982, I made the deal. I want out. Well, Jay, if you want out, then you need to find your way to some type of college atmosphere. So I sought out this opportunity in Beverly for kids that were slightly wayward. And I got enrolled in Beverly Community College and worked my way through that by working at Parker Brothers over in Salem, over the bridge in Salem, Mass. But it was great to be out from under what I thought was a strict rule. Little did I learn on my own that the luxuries that come with a home and a mom and a full fridge are huge, opposed to trying to survive on your own as a 17-year-old, rebellious, didn't want to hear from anyone about anything. And that lasted several years, and I was going job to job and just paying bills. And one day I got a call from my mother saying that my Aunt Betty, her youngest sister, who had been with GE for over 35 years at this point, there was an opportunity for me to get a real job working for a great company. And back then, to get into GE, you actually had to go through a relative. They weren't just taking people off the street. You had to be grandfathered for someone who had been there. And I started off on Mystic Valley Parkway in Bedford, which is now where the Meadow Glen Mall is and such, at Bertucci's, and my shop is still there. I started off in 1984 working there as a stockroom keeper for $7.50 an hour. But that was a lot of money in '84, and you had all your benefits and all this crazy stuff. And we're going left here, Christine. That's a pretty tree. And that's where I straightened my act out. I really had to buckle down. I had opportunities to advance and make some real money. So I stuck with it, buckled down, and I worked my way up from being a stockroom keeper. And what's funny about this conversation, guys, is that they talk about all the problems with the red line, and everyone's getting beaten about the transit system. Well, that's what I got hired for. It was a temporary job with GE for 2 years to rebuild all the electrical systems for the red line in Boston. And all these new problems that are coming up with it right now are the result of it needing to be done again. But that's how long it took for it to break itself, or whatever it is. It needs to be done again. But I loved working. I loved the relationship with my brothers at GE. It was union. And my father was a big teamster. I mean, big time. And my stepfather, Carmen, big time teamster in Boston. And you were proud to be a union worker then. You knew that you were protected. You couldn't be just fired for any odd reason, which I had happened to me many a time, but usually self-inflicted. And I got opportunities for advancement. I started to be an electrical mechanic working on motors, a C, a B, then an A mechanic. And then I started getting into nuclear power. I got to travel, and it was wonderful to be part of such a group. But in retrospect now, I see that my 2 cancers, my 2 heart operations, 2 colon cancers, and every time I had a cancer operation, it would throw my heart out, and I had to go back in and redo it. Working with the chemicals now that I look back that I was handling, I was swimming in them, are no longer even legal in this country. And there was no one protecting us from that type of, or maybe they just didn't know about it. And I know in retrospect that a lot of the decisions, because when you're young, you feel like you're just indestructible. So these chemicals, I was pretty confident that they couldn't be good for you. I wasn't drinking them, but you had to do your job. So you had to make the money, and I was making the money, so I didn't question it. Years later, I ended up being the one that, and you're bearing right here, yeah, being the one that took over in the shop's aspect of clean harbors and having OSHA come in and regulate these chemicals and the things that we were dealing with and the toxins that we were exposed to in this machine shop in Medford. Only wanted to build up enough credit and equity and financial stability to buy property. That was my end goal, was to own my own home, condo, something, because renting was just crazy. But anyway, that's my beginning segment for now, TJ. And I'm going to take a break and have a butt before we head into the show. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, brother.